Trading Bell, brought to you by Longhorn Publishers.
Well, that's the sound that tells you it's time for the Trading Bell. And on the show this week, we shall be hosting the Group Managing Director at Longhorn Publishers, and that is Maxwell Wahome, as we take a deep dive into the publishing industry. What are the dynamics? What do they have to offer to the market? And of course, he shall be talking to us about the competency-based curriculum, what to expect even as publishers get ready for this. For now, let's take a quick look at his profile before we get into the interview.
Maxwell Wahome is the Group Managing Director for Longhorn Publishers PLC, a position he has held since September 2018. He previously served the company as Chief Financial and Operations Officer, a position he held for 2 years. Maxwell is an expert in finance and strategy, having previously worked for over 10 years at PricewaterhouseCoopers Nairobi and Johannesburg. He also has vast experience in the manufacturing, service, mining and FMCG sectors. He holds a Bachelor of Commerce degree accounting from the University of Nairobi. He is a certified public accountant and a certified information systems auditor. He is currently pursuing a master's degree in strategic planning from the Heriot-Watt University, UK.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wahome, for joining us.
Thank you, Abby.
You're doing a great job at Longhorn, and
Thank you.
course, a very interesting time to be a publisher in Kenya. I say this because you are currently, as a country, we are currently in the very delicate stage of rolling out the new curriculum. And of course, many publishers have rose up to the occasion, including Longhorn. Perhaps just walk us through what is your assessment of the new curriculum, and of course, where does it take Kenya's education in the next, say, 5 to 10 years?
Thank you. The new curriculum, I would say, we started a bit slowly towards the tail end of last year. But the train eventually left the station, and we had a successful rollout starting January this year. Longhorn has contributed a lot in the facilitation of the new curriculum in several ways. The first thing is in capacity building. We've worked with over 10,000 teachers, equipping them with the necessary skills to be able to deliver this new curriculum. We've also worked closely with the government of Kenya in distribution of textbooks. So far, we've been part of a group of publishers that have successfully distributed over 20 million books for the new curriculum, Longhorn having distributed close to 4 million books over the last few months. We've seen a very positive uptake of the new curriculum by teachers and by parents. I'm sure you as a parent, if you do have a child going through the new curriculum, you might have been involved in activities that you are not being, you've not done before. And that's what the new curriculum is all about. It's all about equipping our children with skills to be able to survive this tough environment, and to enable them to, ideally you're teaching them, they're learning how to learn in an interesting way, not emphasizing on examinations as you've seen recently. And we're playing a huge part in that.
Interesting. Yeah. And Maxwell, of course, when this process was initiated, there were lots of noises. People saying we are not ready, we don't have enough trained teachers. The other part from the publishers is we've already published books. How do we go back and start again? But from what we are gathering so far, there seems to be some good momentum, some good uptake down the line. And of course, looking at the big picture, the competency-based curriculum is intending to open up the stereotypes that we used to have about education, that kids must only be very good in written stuff for them to excel in life. And just from your view, and of course from the content that will be sort of being rolled out, how will this play out, especially when it comes to capturing the new requirements of the curriculum?
Okay. So in two ways, Your first question was on probably the teething problems that we had at the start of the year.
Yeah.
With any new curriculum, any change of this magnitude, you will have some teething problems. We had similar problems when we started the government rolled out the free primary education. But with the persistence of the government and a lot of facilitation, we eventually managed to implement it. So even with this new curriculum, there were challenges at the start with the distribution of learning materials, but all the learning materials are now in schools. I can confirm to you that each and every child in a public school has all the learning materials. That's from grade 1 to 3, has all the learning materials to enable them learn the new curriculum. So it was just timing issues. They are already resolved. But as we move ahead and progress during the course of the next few years, more and more teachers will be trained, and private publishers like ourselves, Longhorn, will play a big part in training and ensuring that this noble objective or this curriculum becomes a success.
All right. We'll be here to, of course, experience it as well.
Yes.
And Maxwell, let's shift gears a bit. Of course, as an organization, you're not existing for charity. You also have to make some money at the end of the day. Just walk us through the performance of the company, and of course, you are now steering the organization into new territories. This includes having a very ambitious regional expansion strategy. Just walk us through this, sir.
Yes, we had a very good year. Ended 30th of June 2019, recorded a profit of 185 million shillings, which is up from 183 million. Might look like a marginal increase, but in this tough environment where you've seen a number of NSC listed companies reporting a drop and even profit warnings,
that's true.
It's a very stable and a very good performance. This has mainly been driven by two things. One, our regional business has picked up. We are seeing the fruits of the investments that we had been making in Uganda and Tanzania over the last couple of years. To that end, they've contributed 41%. They've had a 41% growth from last year, and we expect an even better performance in this current year. That is mainly due to developing content that is very specific for that market and understanding what the market needs. We've gone to a large extent to get teachers and authors who are knowledgeable in that market, and we've used them to develop the content, and that's why we are seeing this phenomenal growth in the markets. As we look into the rest of Africa, as you remember, mission is to become the #1 provider of innovative learning solutions in Africa. We are now looking at Francophone. We have identified for now Cameroon, and we are now actively developing materials that will be ready in the next, around February 2020. So come next year, we'll have Francophone generating returns for this business, and that will open up a new, totally different market that was not accessible to, let's say, publishing houses from the Anglophone, English-speaking countries.
Yes.
So I think that's a very big achievement for Longhorn.
All right. Speaking about this new target in your list of areas that you can grow the company, of course, breaking through that market is not easy. How do you intend to go through this? Because there's also, of course, the language barrier and having the right human capital for this.
Beauty with education, it has no language. Any country where there are children, we can develop content, or there are learners, we can develop content. Now, for West Africa or Francophone markets, we are looking at strategic partnerships, working with a local partner that understands the market and now developing, co-publishing the materials together. With the experience having published in over 10 African countries, we are able to bring in new ways of doing things, and with the on-the-ground knowledge of these strategic partner, we can be able to conquer those markets. So that is my strategy of gaining a foothold in each of these new territories.
All right. And of course, Wahome, you would agree with me that Kenya is regarded as a hotbed of innovation. These were the words of former US President Barack Obama. And from a digital standpoint, Kenya is literally leading the way in the region in terms of ICT adoption. We now have a mobile penetration rate of about 85%. Financial literacy rates are at 70%. And what are the opportunities for publishers like yourself in terms of tapping into the digital economy?
What you'd say is digital has completely turned around the whole economy, and publishing hasn't been left behind. Longhorn has been investing significantly in digital learning channels. First one, we do have an e-learning platform that is accessible from anywhere around the world, either from an Android, Windows or iOS device. This has enabled us to develop content quicker and distribute it more effectively and cheaply to many people across the world. So we've ensured that this new wave that's coming in, Longhorn is there. We have the largest digital e-store where you can have a lot of, over 60% of our learning materials have already been digitized. I'd say it's the largest when you look at countries within East and Central Africa. To add to that, we've not left the inaccessible areas. Inaccessible meaning people without internet. Feature phones still play a big part in our day-to-day communications. So we've opened up a dedicated USSD channel. It's called it's *864#. With this product, we can be able to channel our content to anybody with a mobile phone. You don't need internet. The product is available in Kenya, and soon we'll be rolling it out in other countries. So that will make sure that education is available at a very cheap price and accessible to both those with internet and those without.
All right.
Yeah.
And Maxwell, you are a numbers guy. What do you see in the horizon, especially when you look at digital and it playing a key revenue driver for Longhorn, even as you diversify your strategy?
I see a new revenue stream, which is ideally coming from, we are ideally generating this revenue from content that we already have, but we've now repurposed it. And when I look at the underlying value of Longhorn, the underlying value of Longhorn is the intellectual property, the content that we have developed for so many years. We are now repurposing that and then channeling it through digital platforms. So what that means is you have higher margin products that do not go through the normal process of printing, which is ideally a very high cost. So you can, for our stakeholders and our shareholders, they can expect more returns with a lower cost base because the content already existed. We are now repurposing it.
All right.
Yeah.
And I just want to get your closing thoughts as well for investors. Of course, Longhorn has been in the market for some time, and we've seen you coming to the stock exchange when it comes to raising capital. And what should the investors expect this time round when as we already start planning for 2020?
Yes. I think we declared a very good dividend, a 30% increase from last year. What I can see and what my investors can expect in the coming years is a company that is now generating higher quality of earnings in terms of better margins through our digital channels, and a company that is growing aggressively in different markets. So you can only expect that to balance out the economies that are doing poorly. If Kenya is doing poorly, Cameroon will be doing better. So, and that's just an example. So we expect more balanced earnings, higher quality earnings, and a company that's very growth oriented. Remember, we are targeting Africa. So our market is not restricted to Kenya. And we're going to be winning in each and every country that we get into.
Interesting.
Yes.
And you're sitting on very serious cash reserves.
Yeah.
And are you also looking to perhaps tap into the bond market down the line?
I would say we will consider that, and we're looking for other investments where we put our cash. But for now, my key priority is to ensure that we target our investments on projects that are going to generate high returns in the future. Yeah.
And perhaps just to get your parting shot, Wahome, of course, as publishers and the publishing community, of course, there's been a lot of concern on the content that eventually gets approved. What's your assurance to the market in terms of ensuring we have quality content that is within the set guidelines and actions that you'll be taking on distributors that you may find are perhaps playing the system?
Okay. So we, and this I'll speak on behalf of Longhorn Publishers and also Kenya Publishers Association, where I'm a council member. We have a very strict code of conduct in terms of content that is acceptable in this market. And the standards of approval of content by the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Developers is really high. Once in a while, you might find a publisher sneaking in content or bringing in content from a different market, not from Kenya.
Sure.
For such publishers, we do sanction them within KPA and ensure that our distributors are aware that certain materials should not be distributed. So I am personally against any content that is against the moral standing of this country and this environment. So we are taking a very tough stand on that.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Maxwell Wahome, for your
insight.
Thank
you for having me.
We appreciate your time and we wish you the very best, especially now that the publishing world is exciting and a lot is in the pipeline when you look at the big picture. And it's now time for us to take a look at how the markets have been performing. Have the shares been going up? Have they been going down? All this in our market analysis coming up.